Will the paychecks from your day job be enough to secure the future you want to live? Where will the money come from the day after your final paycheck stops? Most people know that financial freedom rarely comes from a single source. 62% of Americans want that second income stream, but fewer than 15% ever take action, because taking action is hard, especially when the system encourages working hard at your day job and avoiding taking risk. Yet there are a lot of great ways to build additional income streams, from easy interest payments to starting a side gig. For many, the idea of starting a business is overwhelming, but what if there was a way to be handed a playbook including systems, guidance, and a model that's already working? It's called franchising, and is a great strategy for carving a path to financial freedom, and it's today's conversation on Escape the Clock. I'm speaking with franchise coach and expert Adam Goldman on how franchising can provide that extra income stream so many want but never take action on. We discuss what beginners need to know, what to watch out for, and how it can realistically fit into your freedom plan. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Escape the Clock, the show where we highlight strategies and approaches for achieving your personal financial freedom. I'm your host, Daniel C. Rogers. One of the most important truths in personal finance today is that relying on a single income source leaves people financially vulnerable. A 2025 Ramsey survey found that the average millionaire has 7 income streams, and a recent Bankrate study found that 62% of Americans want a second income stream, but fewer than 15% ever take action. You don't need 7 streams to reach financial independence, not even close, but adding just 1 or 2 more can dramatically improve your resilience and accelerate your timeline. So why don't more people take that step? Because most people don't even know where to begin. They know their job alone won't get them there, but they don't know what's realistic, what fits their life, or which paths are worth exploring. And when they go looking for answers, they usually find business strategies or models or advanced investing discussions that feel too big or too risky or too time-consuming. But you don't need to start a business or build an empire to make progress. You just need clarity. You need to understand the different types of income streams available, how to evaluate them, and how to choose the ones that align with your time, your goals, and your risk tolerance. And that's why I'm so excited about today's guest. Adam Goldman has spent more than 20 years evaluating opportunities across industries like IT, real estate, and franchising. He's built companies on 2 continents, invested in multiple markets, and coached people through complex financial decisions. But he's not here to just teach entrepreneurship or business scaling. He's here to help us extract the universal principles behind choosing income opportunities that support a life of freedom. Adam is joining to show us that anyone can identify income paths that fit their personality and schedule using simple factors, what beginners should avoid, and how to evaluate ideas without needing a business background. Adam, welcome to Escape the Clock.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Great introduction.
I appreciated that. Well, to start off, I would love to hear about your financial journey. When did you realize that relying on one income wasn't going to provide the stability or freedom that you were looking for?
Well, I mean, look, I think just like anyone else, when I started my career, I actually started my career kind of with a handicap in that I wasn't getting American salaries. When I graduated from undergrad, I had the interesting idea of going to Eastern Europe, which was positive from a cost perspective, meaning it was very, very inexpensive to live in Budapest, but it was also not very lucrative, right? So I learned early that I had to make money in order to survive.
What were your longer life aspirations at that time? What did you think you were going to do?
Great question. And looking back on it, I don't think I was really focused on my whole life. I was more focused on gaining experience. And it was, in hindsight, an amazing experience to spend the first 6 years of my career in Eastern Europe. And the reason why is I got experience that was priceless as opposed to having a bank account that was better. And I was given respect that I didn't deserve just because I was an American. At age 23 or 24, I was like managing people twice my age just because I was an American. So it was just a really great environment to learn business, frankly.
So having experienced finance on 2 continents now, what is your biggest takeaways? Like if you compare and contrast them, is there some things that you find America is doing really well or has maybe started to take a back seat to compared to some of your other experiences?
So I actually really truly believe that the US is the best place to make money. And conversely, my mentor, Scott Galloway, says the same thing. The US is the best place to make money, but Europe is the best place to spend money. I still believe that.
So let me ask you then, from your experience, why relying on just a single income source might be a financial weakness? Do you see this as something that's a problem that some people have today? Was that something that you were mindful about back when you were making your moves?
Absolutely. In hindsight, I was only able to get a really low salary, right? And what I found is I think that I kind of had this aha moment after I graduated from business school and I moved back to the United States. And that aha moment was, wait a second here. This is not a situation where I can only be relying on my paycheck, right? I've never really been a corporate person, right? I'm more of a corporate refugee. And I noticed a kind of dabble and kind of noticed real estate to me is a great place to make money. And then I saw franchising as an interesting place to make money as well. And that's kind of the world that I've been in now for 15 years plus.
Yeah, excited to touch on some of those. We've talked about real estate quite a bit on the show and diversification and why we need to have a lot of different streams, especially passive income streams for a financial freedom plan. Franchising is something I want to pick your brain on. Before we get into that, I'm just kind of curious if there was kind of a singular moment or something. Was it like looking at the economy? Was it some experience through your job or partnering with someone or some setback maybe that made you rethink, oh, I can't just depend on a paycheck?
So what I would say is this, that it was just kind of done by accident. Came back to the United States, not sure what to do. Tried Brooklyn for about 9 months. That did not work out. Was looking for a place that had low taxes and warm weather. Settled just by accident randomly in Austin. And then when I came to Austin, I'm like, okay, what do I do now, right? I had sold my business in Europe. And just through trial and error and through friends and just kind of talking, I stumbled into real estate, specifically manufactured housing. I would characterize myself as being a value investor in general. I just found that market was just kind of beaten up. And what I really liked about that market, looking back on it, is I found places that had really, really good dirt underneath that were mispriced by the marketplace. And that was an interesting market to kind of get into.
Gotcha. Just recently, we had an ex-professional baseball player on the show who was talking about how his whole life was just put into baseball. And then when his contract was let go early, how it kind of just put him in this place where he wasn't sure what to do. He had no plan B and no second income source. And now he had to go kind of figure it out. And now he tries to help people do that earlier. I'm wondering, like, why do you think it is that so many people miss this until it's too late? Is there something, and I do think more people are recognizing it now with layoffs being at the rates they're at, the economy kind of starting to stumble. People are thinking, wow, I can't put everything into this job. Are you seeing more people showing interest in this kind of topic? And is this something that you're noticing there's a greater force behind it?
So what I would say is this, that my understanding is that I believe that unfortunately many people, they're just getting bombarded with messages, right, all the time. And I really truly believe that AI is making us stupider. I really do. Like whenever I use it, there's actually been studies about it that your IQ goes down the more you use AI. With all these pressures outside, people aren't really necessarily thinking creatively. So what I found in my industry is that whenever there's some sort of event going on outside, things such as COVID, or even now with the tariff shock that we had at the beginning of this year, people and layoffs and possibly this AI bubble everyone's talking about, that's when people are more interested in kind of thinking critically, right? And so that's for me the impetus.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of shocks to the system. It seems like in the last couple of months. Well, let's get into it a bit. I'm really interested to hear what you think about, one, all of your experience. You've definitely been in a lot of areas. I'd love to hear if you could lay some of those out. But can you talk a little bit, because diversification is important, what are some realistic types of income streams that someone who maybe already have a job might start to consider?
I'm going to focus on the franchising world because that's really the world that I know the best. And that's an interesting thing to kind of add to the mix for people that are looking for an exit plan from corporate America. And frankly, the vast majority of my candidates are people that are looking for an exit plan and that are willing to invest money and their time with the thoughts that in 5 years or 10 years that this business would be a going concern. They could actually potentially leave their job. They say, wait a second here, this is the job that I have, but and maybe I have a spouse or a partner that is willing to do this business on the side, right? Or just full time when I'm going to be working full time. The franchising is not a passive investment, but it can be semi-absentee, meaning as long as you put in 5, 10, or 15 hours per week, you potentially could have a business with managers. Some examples of those kind of businesses is I have real estate related franchises or things that don't have any employees at all.
Gotcha. Well, maybe let's take a step back for some people. Maybe franchising isn't something I've ever considered before. How would you introduce this idea to somebody? What are some of the fundamentals?
Franchising, by definition, is when you decide to invest in the form of franchise fees and royalties in exchange for getting a system and also getting a brand. And many people tend to underestimate how valuable this system is, meaning things such as a McDonald's Hamburger University playbook, et cetera, right? So there really is value with the right franchise system in not reinventing the wheel and money that you would save in mistakes you otherwise would have made. Someone gave me an analogy yesterday, and I thought it was great. Franchising is like doing business, but think of business as being a bowling lane, and you have the guardrails and the gutters.
And can you give a couple examples of some that you've seen work well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to give specific names of brands, but one of the great things about my industry and my specific service is I connect my candidates with brands that are in 75 different industries. It's a personalized service where I give them 3 options that they can compare and contrast. And by definition, they're different options. And the one thing that I really, really like very much are businesses that are non-brick and mortar businesses. And one of the reasons why is because they can cash flow quicker. And I specifically like those businesses that are need to have as opposed to nice to have. And one thing that's really having a moment right now is anything related to the senior industry. I know it's not glamorous, but my dad is 83 and he needs help. And I'm sure this is very similar to many people in the United States right now. We call it the silver tsunami. So there are many businesses, especially things related to home health care, where there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of need and a lot of desire and lots of margin where you're doing good and also able to create a really nice business with not many clients in order to have to break even.
What might the process for someone who's never gone through it before look like? How do they find the right opportunities that might match their skill set? How do they know how much capital they might be bringing in, what kind of risk to look for, and et cetera?
So there's a right way and a wrong way for this. Let's start with the wrong way. If you're looking at different franchise brands, you could potentially go online and you could do some Google or maybe ChatGPT or even do some deep research. And then you'll find some brands, and you might even dig deep, but it's probably not the right fit for you. And maybe there's not even a territory available. The process with me, the way that works, again, it's a free service for people that are looking to potentially invest in franchises, is first I have them fill out a survey. And then after they fill out the survey, we have a more in-depth conversation. We are typically looking for people that have at least $50,000 in cash and a net worth of over $150,000, including retirement accounts or real estate or whatever that might be. And then after that in-depth conversation, I write a 2-page letter or model, and then I connect them with 3 great brands, and then they start an investigation process with my help. And after between 20 to 25 hours of research, they're able to say yes or no to these 3 brands.
And you mentioned there's I think you said 15 to 20 hours a week. So it's kind of like a semi-active kind of role. And I get it. Like this is, starting a business in a way, right? So can you describe a little bit what those hours are for somebody?
Well, it all depends on what kind of opportunity this is, right? So I would say that at the beginning, it's hard, no matter what that business is. But if you have good support and good managers, and the example that I have is I have an acquaintance of mine in Houston who is probably one of the smartest managers I've ever met, in that he's a pastor and he goes to his church. And in the morning, he kind of sits and breaks bread with his staff for his fitness concept. So he's just he's running the business. He's on the business, not in it, but he's really making the best use out of those 20 to 30 minutes in the mornings.
Gotcha. And someone who has a day job who might feel like they're burned out, they're already working too many hours. Is this just a non-starter in your advice? Like, should they not even try this kind of thing? Or is there smaller ways to get involved with doing franchising?
So if you or your partner don't have more than 5 or 10 or 15 hours a week available, then do not buy a franchise. That's my advice.
Great. And how do you look at this from the risk perspective? Like, I know that's a lot of what you're saying here. Like, you need somebody who knows what they're doing here to coach you and help you. So know that this is something that might be worthwhile or not, or to avoid it. But, is this, in your experience, is it pretty accurate to know which ones are more likely to work and scale versus ones that probably won't get off the ground?
Just trying to have the highest chance of success, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure this thing works out. And when you put someone in a business that is need to have in the right territory and they put the right sort of effort, then things are going to work out. That's the whole idea behind this. And I really believe that the number one determinant, and if I look at my top performers of my franchisees, the one overarching theme, no matter what industry, is that they have that secret sauce themselves, meaning that they've done all the possible work. I'm a huge believer in the whole idea of incremental gains, meaning if you put a little bit, just do 1% better, that might mean a profit margin increase or revenue increase of 10 or 20% in your business. I believe the silver bullet in franchising is my franchisees and the effort that they put in and their mindset.
You ever had one quit their job because their franchise is doing so well?
Yeah, all the time. I have people quit their jobs. Had a candidate today that decided to invest in a franchise business and is going to quit their job to get this thing started from scratch. That's how much he believes in this business that has really, really good validation from existing franchisees.
How much is like existing skill set important in what you're doing? And I know research has to be part of this. Like, you have to understand the markets, you have to understand the power of the brand, the moment we live in, things like that. But like, the individual, like how much of it, like what you're doing is looking at the skills they're bringing to the table. Or is it just like, hey, you can kind of adapt and grow and learn the skill that you might need?
I've never been asked this question before. I think it's a great question. So if I understand the question, it's how much of the skill set is something that's coming from like someone's innate ability, as opposed to how much can they be trained or coached to be a good franchisee?
Exactly. Yeah. Because, with some passive income streams, it's better to, let's imagine you are someone who loves photography. You have a great eye for it. You're willing to invest in the equipment. Picking something that focuses on royalties in that field gives you a leg up, right? Than someone who has never done it before and is trying to figure it out and might struggle with the competition of it. They can still learn, but the amount of risk that they take on to be successful with that as an actual lucrative, sustainable income stream is much more difficult than the person with the innate skill.
I would say even more important than skill is aptitude and general ability / what their attitude is, right? So, I mean, like, you can be the most amazing restaurateur in the world, but if you're not going to listen to Chick-fil-A, right, then it's not going to work out for you, right? So, I mean, you could not know anything about restaurants, conversely, and have that right attitude and right ethic and be willing to learn and adapt and grow. And then you could be the top Chick-fil-A franchisee in the world. That's the beauty of franchising, in that you have the playbook. And if you follow that playbook and you have the will to follow it, then the sky's the limit.
I missed asking, what type of return on investment should people expect? Like, how long until they might actually see this either work or not work?
There's a general rule in franchising in that one of the advantages of a non-brick and mortar business, think service company like a homemade service or pool servicing business or home healthcare agency, that they cash flow quicker than a brick and mortar business. There is one exception with that, in that if you have a brick and mortar business, think Orange Theory, and somehow you're really adept at pre-sales. Let's say you're constructing or doing tenant improvements. And if you look at what's going on, you're able to sell memberships before you're even getting started. That's one exception to that rule for brick and mortar businesses. And my candidates sometimes can make really, really good returns, right? I've seen that. I've seen people have businesses that are generating lots of cash flow, even in the first year, with huge returns. We're talking 20 or 30% or more in that first year. That's possible.
Do you see these franchises having long legs, or does it just depend on the franchise itself?
So I've seen people in the franchise world that are in it for decades. It does depend upon yourself. It depends on the franchisor. But even something like a Boston Market. I remember Boston Market when I was a kid, and not to talk about food so much, but the location near me, I think, has been open for 20 years or 25 years. That's a long time.
There was this Gallup study this year that said 62% of new investors say the fear of losing money is what's stopping them from taking any action at all. If you don't take action, you can't get a return. You have to take action at some point. So what do you think, at least when it comes to your expertise, are the biggest traps that people are so afraid of falling into that might be creating some of this inaction?
I think the fear of losing money is real, right? I mean, don't forget that if you buy a money market account, you're getting 4%. That's something, right? That's not, it used to be 1% or 2% interest rates. This is real at 4%. I understand fear. Many of my candidates have that fear. I think it's the unknown, and I think that it's not necessarily rational. The book, The Psychology of Money, is a fascinating book, and we don't act rationally with our money, although we think we do.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot on the show, actually, and it's quite important to understand your own behavior so that you can mitigate yourself when you're working in your plan. Well, how do you think of someone who's going into this? They're willing to take the step. They're putting their capital up here. Is there things that, in your opinion, they should be doing to be smart in how they're doing their investments, such as hedging it with something else or picking a certain sector that they have more experience in? What are things people can do to help make themselves more successful here?
The one thing that I coach my candidates is I tell them to spend most of your due diligence time on validation. Just like anything in life, every franchise brand has under, average, and overperformers. The whole idea behind validation is to find people that are overperforming, that are like you, that are in markets like yours, and see what they are doing, and to ask them questions. And that would give you comfort that it's a good investment for you to make as well. That mitigates risk. Got it.
Let me take a different angle. I know real estate was brought up earlier. And let's say someone's like, hey, I want to get into real estate. REIT is not good enough for me, but I also don't want to be, going and flipping houses either. Do you see a franchising angle for that individual?
Absolutely. It depends on how much money they have. So, for instance, let's say someone doesn't want to go and flip houses on their own. But everyone's heard of these different franchise options where there are franchise options that literally teach you a system about how to get houses inexpensively. And thinking about this just kind of non-traditionally, let's talk about property management. There are property management franchises whose business model is to find these properties that are hidden gems that these owners are not really caring about, or maybe they're an absentee owner. And by being that manager, you're able to kind of get in and get first right of this house when it's up for sale. That's another way to look at this. And there are real estate opportunities in franchising. I've seen in the past commercial real estate franchises where you're investing in buildings that are undervalued and able to kind of use a franchise system to get those. And there's also elements where you could potentially buy a property, build it, and then do a lease buyback. So there are different ways to do that. So there are or you could own dirt underneath and then have a business over it. I've seen that as well for landlords. So there are all these different plays in franchising for this.
You really tickled my brain a bit there as you're talking about that, because I can imagine, when someone's thinking about an early retirement, at least, right? And what we talk about on the show is about financial freedom. It's about having the choice to have to do your main job or not, because you know your number, you've done the right things to mitigate the risk, you're going to be okay. But, a lot of what that comes down to is picking that thing that you want to invest your time into and your skills. And I can imagine someone who's interested in franchising, but mostly they want to teach. They have something to teach. They have some skill. They're like, I would love, if I was retired early, I could go teach my craft, the thing I've been doing in my day job, the thing I love doing the most in my job. If I could bring that forward and I could franchise that out, and I don't know what it would look like at playbooks or online tutorials or whatever it is, but something like that with their brand behind it, then that could be a fun way for them to spend their early retirement.
And I have a franchise like that. Again, I won't mention the company's name, but it's a very popular brand. And their whole value proposition is that you pay a franchise fee. The training that you get from them to become a franchisee is just ridiculously valuable. Many people say that it's actually worth the franchise fee to get the training that you get from them. You don't need many clients to succeed. And the way that the franchise works is that you have your own skill set, whether or not it's leadership or business. And they give you a framework in order to allow you to package whatever your skill set is in order to make that lucrative. And you don't need many clients to break even in that business.
What does the competitive landscape look like some of the time? Like, is there some desk research that can be done to say, look, that's a great idea, but guess what? There's already 50 people doing this kind of thing.
I get scared about lack of competition as opposed to competition. For me, as someone that owned an office cleaning master franchise, it was a situation where everyone around me owned their own office cleaning company. I had a unique selling position in that we were very professional as opposed to our competitors weren't as professional as that. So competition doesn't necessarily scare me. I'm looking for things that have unique selling positions as opposed to other potential competitors, as opposed to an absence of competitors, which might mean that you don't have a viable business.
I'm going to ask you probably a weird question now.
Sure, please.
Is it fair to say that franchising has become your main job?
Yeah, so that's not a weird question. So look, I owned an office cleaning master franchise. And by the way, when you're talking about income, let's talk about exits too, right? Because successful franchisees are able to have an exit. And I had an exit in that the person that owned the region next to mine decided to purchase the Houston territory. But what I can tell you is that after I sold that business, I went into the franchise business as a coach and consultant or connector. This business where a free service for potential franchisees to connect them with brands that are in 75 different industries. And that really is the main source of my earned income. But I have other investments now, things related to real estate. I am very heavily invested through retirement accounts, et cetera, in the stock market. It just happens to be that way. It's a diversified portfolio, both U.S. and international, and I have some real estate as well. I'm a big believer in diversification. Although our world is so interconnected, it's hard to know what's connected or not. But yes, this is my earned income.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I thought it might be a weird question because in a way, some people are looking at their main job and franchising as a stepping stone, maybe to kind of start to at least diversify away from their one paycheck. But in your case, it became kind of, I guess, your main job, but you need other things you need to do so you don't have all your eggs in that one basket. And you answered the question. You're between your investments, real estate, and diversification in those areas, it looks like you've been able to do what you need to do. And do you find like you're doing things to ensure your cash flow positive, even if your franchises weren't available to you tomorrow?
Absolutely. And look, my wife she's a partner at a law firm. So from a personal finance perspective or family finance, we are very diversified between different careers.
Okay. So if someone's listening right now and they feel stuck between wanting more income in their life, but they're fearing burnout, what would you say to that person?
That the most exciting time of my life was starting my franchise business. So, maybe you're just burned out with your company, because I talk to people all day long and the vast majority of them are unhappy in corporate America. It's probably a situation where you might be in the wrong business.
The last question I have for you is, what is your future goals right now? What are you hoping to work towards?
So my daughters are 14, 10, and 8, and that is my life, right? I see it as long, I hear that when your kids get older, the relationship changes, right? But I'm laser focused on until my youngest turns 18. I'm a dad first. All this other stuff is fun and great, but that's really the focus of my time and everything else. And then I think my life will really change after they leave the house. I see myself traveling more, kind of evolving this business that I have into more of a brand, one where I'm able to travel and to kind of work on the Adam Goldman brand as opposed to Adam Goldman, the person that is connecting franchisors and franchisees.
Well, that's fascinating. So family is really important, and having time. Like I have a 18-year-old who just moved out, but I have a 15-year-old home, and taking my early retirement has allowed me to really have been present with him these last couple of years. And it's been the best gift there is. How aware and active are your kids with what you're doing, your business? And do you talk to them about franchising? Is this something that are trying to give them tools for?
One of my favorite activities on the weekend is the game called Cash Flow by Kiyosaki. My kids are absolutely obsessed by it. And the kind of lingo that they say, like, Dad, the IRR on this one isn't high enough, or look at my return, or even my 8-year-old. And I'm just blown away at how financially literate they are. They can even do like spreadsheets and balance sheets at age 8. So I'm a huge believer in kids that can be financially aware.
Do they inspire you sometimes? Do you get new ideas from them?
Absolutely. Yes. Like the questions that they ask, and I want to foster entrepreneurship in them.
I love that so much. That's great. Well, Adam, thank you. I think you've introduced this idea to probably a lot of people who haven't considered it before. And this is all about having ideas for our plans. So if people want to connect with you, how can they do so?
Best way to do so is go straight to my website, franchisecoach.net, schedule a free 15-minute chat. And I'm excited to talk to you and hear about your goals and hear about how we could potentially allow franchising to allow you to achieve those goals.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us on Escape the Clock, and wishing you the best.
Thank you, Daniel. Bye now.
Speaking with Adam Goldman today gave me a lot to think about. Franchising was never originally part of my plan, but looking back, I can see how a different strategy might have changed the timeline of my own early retirement. My original plan was loose: more time with family, better health, and time to focus on writing and billiards. To get there, I took a slow and safe course: heavy stock market investment, dividend-paying assets, and building liquidity through high-yield savings accounts. I still value the passive nature of those interest payments, but it took me over a decade to reach my milestone. Now, I can't help but wonder if finding the right franchise match earlier might have made my money work for me much faster. I'm not suggesting a shortcut here, not at all. Like any investment, this requires honesty and careful navigation. But I do appreciate the transparency that Adam provided. Franchising is a semi-active income source that becomes more passive when we put systems and managers in place. It's a business with rules, and those rules provide a playbook. A plan designed to mitigate the expensive mistakes that most entrepreneurs make on their own. So, if you're feeling stuck, burning out at a job, but paralyzed by the fear of losing your only income source, consider this. Most of us are taught to rely on a single paycheck, but one is the most dangerous number when it comes to personal finance. It makes sense why so many of us rely on our day jobs to secure our future. We are taught to lean in, work hard, and provide. But the data doesn't always support that. We have to be honest about the world that we're navigating. Blindly following the path prescribed for us can lead to stress, and before we know it, we are just going through the motions. Autopilot is easy while things are calm, but once things get hard, we snap to attention and hopefully action. We don't have to wait for life to kick us to get into gear. Deciding to take action is how we break the cycle. Otherwise, the fear of the unknown will hold us in place, scaring us from making that move. And the fear of losing money is real. But the only way to be 100% sure that we won't get a return is to do nothing. Success here isn't about innate ability. It's about our aptitude and our attitude. Being willing to follow a proven system rather than reinventing the wheel. So maybe striking out with a franchise business of your own can help break the cycle. Well, it's not really a business though, and that's actually one of the things that struck me a lot about this conversation, that franchising isn't always about buying a business. It's more about buying a system. It's a way to leverage the playbooks built on years of someone else's learnings, or setting out to put out playbooks of your own. Whether it's a service-based business that cash flows quickly or an opportunity to invest in an undervalued real estate, the goal is the same: creating a reliable income stream. Because if things go well, we may have a reliable early exit plan from corporate America and can coast into that financially free future. So if there is one main takeaway today, let it be this: diversification is the secret to financial success. Diversification isn't just about stocks in our portfolios. It's about our entire financial picture, our assets, our human capital, and our income streams. The right second income isn't necessarily the one with the highest returns as well. It's the one that we can stick with, the one that we can grow consistently, and the one we can count on. Often think of financial independence as the single breakthrough moment, one big investment or a career-defining raise. But in reality, the most reliable path to freedom is the result of diversifying our income. Tom Corley, a researcher and a CPA, conducted this 5-year study on wealthy individuals, building on the concept in Robert Allen's book, Multiple Streams of Income. In this study, he found that the most successful people rarely rely on a single source of revenue. Specifically, he found that 65% of self-made millionaires had at least 3 streams of income, while nearly 30% had 5 or more. So these aren't just random bets. These are deliberate systems ranging from the interest income that we get from high-yield savings to the profit income generated by a business or a franchise. When we pick those 1 or 2 extra streams that make us less reliant on a single paycheck, we aren't just reducing our risk. We are accelerating our timeline. It transforms our plan from a decades-long wait into a series of intentional moves that we control. I want to hear from you. What is the next income stream that you're thinking about exploring? Share your thoughts in the comments or email me at contact@escapetheclock.com. Thank you so much for listening. Best of luck diversifying your income and escaping the clock. I'm Daniel C. Rogers. I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Remember, while I'm not yet a financial planner, I am getting my degree in wealth management. You should take anything you've heard here as tips and advice to making your plan. To learn more, visit www.escapetheclock.com. There, you can find the book, resources, including the planner, and you can even schedule time with me. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.